Welcome back. In this video, we are going to be talking about dividing decimals without using a calculator. It is important to show your work when dividing decimals without a calculator. It may be helpful for you to use graph paper to keep your numbers organized. Okay, let's get started. Let's start by taking a look at dividing decimals by a whole number. Step 1 says set up the problem in long division form. So remember, we talked about that the first number that occurs is your dividend. It goes on the inside. So in this first one, I have 61 hundredths would go on the inside divided by 8. Step 2 says place decimal in quotient. So I'm going to move the decimal into the quotient. Step 3 says divide as if both numbers were whole numbers. Okay, so 8 can't go into 6, so I need to put a 0. But 8 can go into 61. It can go into 61 7 times, which gives me 7 times 8 gives me 56. So then I subtract. I would have 5 left over. Add a 0 and continue dividing until it either repeats or terminates. 8 goes into 50 6 times, which will give me 48. I have 2 left over. Add a 0. Bring it down. 8 will go into 20 2 times, which will give me 16, and I will have 4 left over. Add a 0, bring it down, and 8 will go into 40 5 times exactly, which will leave me with 0, and I can stop. So my answer would be the following. Okay, now let's take a look at number 2. We have 4 6/10 divided by 2. So set up the problem in long division, check. Place decimal in quotient. So we're going to move the decimal into the answer. So now we can divide as if they were whole numbers. 2 goes into 4 2 times. So that would give me 4. With 0 left over, bring down your 6. 2 goes into 6 3 times. Exactly. So we can stop. So that would be 2 3/10. Now we're going to look at dividing decimals by decimals. The steps for this are 2 extra steps, so a little longer, but I think once you get the hang of it, it'll be pretty easy, just like dividing a decimal by a whole number, because that's what we're going to end up doing anyways. So step 1 says, if there's a decimal in the divisor, we need to move it to the right until it makes a whole number. So my divisor is 6 4/10, so I would need to move it 1 time. So now this number would be 64. And step 2 says, move the decimal in the dividend the same amount of spaces to the right as you move the divisor. And if you have to, you can add zeros, meaning if there's an empty place value. So I'm going to move this, which now gives me 416. So I have 416 divided by 64 now. And now I'm going to set up the problem in long division form. So 416 divided by 64. So in my head, I'm thinking, how many times will 64 go into 416? And what I do is I think, how many times will 6 go into 41? I always look at the first number to give me a hint. And I know 6 times 7 is 42, so that's too much. So I'm going to come over to the side here and do 64 times 6 to see if that'll work. 4 times 6 is 24, carry my 2. 6 times 6 is 36, plus the 2 is 38. So I have 384. So that does work. So we are going to use 6 as our number. So we're going to say it goes in there 6 times, which gave us 384. Subtract 6 minus 4 is 2. 41 minus 38 is 3. Bring down your 0. So if you notice, we're really close. 384, 320. So I'm going to try 5 since they're really close numbers. 5 times 4 is 20. 5 times 6 is 30. Plus that 2 is 32. So now 320 minus 320. So my answer would be 6 5/10. On this problem, you can pause the video, try it on your own, and then come back and work the problem with me if you need to. So the first thing you should notice in this problem is that we need to move the decimal out of the divisor to make it a whole number. So now I have 18 on this side. So what I do to one side, I have to do to the other, so I also need to move this because we have to keep it balanced. So now this becomes 154 8/10. So now we need to write this in long division, 154 and 8/10 divided by 18. So now I have to think, how many times will 18 go into 154? I know 10 is going to be too much because it's 180, and I still think 9 would be too much. So let's try 18 times 8. So 18 times 8 would give me, or 8 times 8 would give me 64. 8 times 1 is 8, plus the 6 is 144. So that worked out for us. So sometimes you're just going to have to guess and check. So 154 minus 144 will give me 10. Bring down my 8. Oh, and let's not forget to bring our decimal up and add that we multiplied that by 8. So now I need to think, I need to use a number smaller than 8 to get 108. What you could also do is subtract 18. So if I subtract 18, this would give me 126. So I know 7 is still too much. So then if I subtract 18 again, I will actually get the 108. So this was 7, this would be 6. So that means 6 times 18 would give me 108. So my answer would be 8 and 6/10. We have made it to the end of the video. I hope this video has helped you solidify your thoughts on dividing decimals. If you need more help, either come see me if you're in my class, or leave me a message and I can make another video if needed. I hope you have a great day.